And greetings. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I am Steve Deace. He's Todd Erzin. He's Aaron McIntyre. We are brought to you by our good friends over at the First Cup Coffee Company. They have a flavor for every freedom-loving American. Freshly roasted beans with the roast on date put there right there on every bag, so you know it was shipped to you within days of being roasted. And they share your values on top of the fact they will make sure you have a hella cup of coffee. Use my last name as the discount when you go to firstcup.com and use the code DACE. That's firstcup.com. Use the code DACE at firstcup.com. And also don't forget that blazeunlimited.com/DACE will get you a discounted subscription to the new Blaze Unlimited subscription tier, where you now go from just being a subscriber to a full partner, and that'll make sure that you get all the back issues of Frontier Magazine, including the brand new one just out now as well. blazeunlimited.com/DACE. That gives you more VIP treatment, more members-only content, $40 off your annual subscription. When you go to blazetv.com/DACE, use the promo code Frontier40 to get that $40 off your Blaze Unlimited subscription. blazeunlimited.com/DACE, code Frontier40 for 40% off. All right, folks, or $40 off, I should say. All right, folks, coming up on today's show, my buddy Dr. Jeremiah Johnston is going to join us. He's got a new study Bible out, the Peace of God Study Bible. And I was talking to him about it privately the other day. He said, listen, man, I've been doing pastoring in the theology theme for almost 30 years. And I don't know that anything has rocked my world from a faith perspective in a long time, quite like doing what it took to put this study Bible together. So he's going to join us to talk about that coming up at the bottom of the hour. We're also going to have some fake news or not, okay, and put you guys through a pretty difficult ethical quandary, all right? How to vote in this New York City mayoral election, given the choices. Or maybe idolatry or not, or death or not, or how about the segment, given the choices before you should just be not. All right, we're going to have that conversation coming up a little bit later on. Also a little bit later on, 1 year from today, will be the midterm elections. And in my home state, I think we're going to have the most important Iowa governor election, at least in my lifetime, as we're going to decide. Are we going to let the Iowa Democratic Party out of the shallow grave in which we have buried it? Or are we going to continue on the narrow road, the righteous road that we currently are? And so I figured no better day than for me to go ahead and weigh into the governor's race with an endorsement. We're going to do that coming up later in the show. We'll introduce you to that candidate as well coming up later too. So before we get to all of that, however, here is Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by Turning the Screws. President Trump is starting to turn up the heat on Senate Republicans, warning them that they'll lose the midterms if they don't nuke the filibuster. On Truth Social, Trump said, quote, "It'll be impossible for Republicans to get common sense policies done with these crazed Democrat lunatics being able to block everything by withholding their votes. For 3 years, nothing will be passed and Republicans will be blamed. Elections, including the midterms, will be rightfully brutal." Trump also posted last night encouraging people to vote for Andrew Cuomo in the New York City mayoral race against Islamist Zohran Mamdani, who continues to triple and quadruple down on so-called Islamophobia.
Who else in the level car say yeah?
Whoops, wrong clip.
Raise your hand if you have been called a terrorist while living in this city.
So who is voting for Mamdani? Take a look.
I voted for Mamdani.
Do you feel like socialism would work in New York City?
No, not necessarily.
U.S. Department of Justice released a criminal complaint detailing the stunning accusations related to an alleged ISIS-related jihadi terror plot thwarted in Michigan. Federal Bureau of Investigation officials searched several locations Friday and arrested 3 suspects before FBI Director Kash Patel said the Bureau had prevented a major terror attack planned for Halloween weekend. On Monday, U.S. Attorney General Mamdani posted the unsealed criminal complaint against 2 individuals, though as many as 5 were allegedly involved. She said, quote, "Our newly unsealed complaint reveals a major ISIS-linked terror plot with multiple subjects arrested in the Eastern District of Michigan targeting the United States. According to the complaint, subjects had multiple AR-15 style rifles, tactical gear, and a detailed plan to carry out an attack on American soil. We now have a brand new ruling on the intersectionality totem pole. A white man pretending to be a woman now trumps a black woman attracted to women."
Men, grown men with big in the women's locker room. And that's why I'm getting kicked out. And I want to make sure the girls know.
It's Tish Hyman, who says she was kicked out of her Gold's Gym after rightfully making a stink about a man who was loitering in the women's locker room. Also, this is a real and true headline from the Post-Millennial. Native American trans pedophile who abused his own son on tribal land will get taxpayer-funded laser hair removal voice therapy in North Carolina prison after court order. Tucker Carlson appeared on the Dave Smith podcast yesterday, where he did have some other weird things to say about Israel, but did express regret over at least one portion of his podcast episode with Nick Fuentes.
But I just want to say at the outset, because this has been weighing on me, I did say something that I really regret saying that I didn't fully mean. I said it because I was mad, which is always when I say things I don't really mean. When I get pissed, my wife's always telling me this. I was snippy and I didn't explain it. And I said something to the effect of, I despise Christian Zionists. And I'm just sorry that I said that, because I don't. I'm mad at a certain kind of thinking. Some of the nicest people I know are Christian Zionists, actually. You know, if you're in a car crash, they would save you. If you need someone to watch your bank account, they wouldn't steal from you. They're like really good people and sweet people.
Former Vice President Dick Cheney passed away after a battle with complications of pneumonia and cardiac and vascular disease. He was 84 years old. And finally, the millennial Dave Ramsey and former Michigan resident Caleb Hammer interviewed his former governor, Gretchen Whitmer. Among other things, they discussed the topic of COVID non-pharmaceutical interventions.
See?
It's only going up. COVID took a little hit. Okay,
COVID
fair enough.
It was hard.
Yeah, it was a little, I'll be honest, I was a little annoyed when I came home for Christmas 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Like, we had to eat outside, but we were in inside pods outside. It was a little weird. Then I came back here and then I could just do whatever.
Well,
that was a bit weird, I'll be honest.
But remember what the temperature was. Here, you can walk around outside all day, right? At home,
but if I could
in Michigan, in the winter, we're all inside breathing on each other.
But if I was allowed to be inside, outside, why couldn't I just be inside?
Because you were inside, outside with just your small group of people.
And the servers and bussers.
Listen, Caleb, none of us wants to go back and relive that.
That's
we were
true.
doing the best
Please.
we could with very little or very bad information.
And that's what happened while we were away.
Hand that to me, Way. I was on the edge, and I just think maybe I'm done, I think.
All yours, brother.
I think we're just...
Mercy killing.
Yeah, myself.
Yes.
It's more like a euthanization, right? I mean, of course, the state of Michigan has a proud history of euthanization, Dr. Jack. So... If the state of Michigan had not produced Jack Kevorkian 30 years ago, that clip probably would have inspired a future progeny example. Aaron's Montage brought to you by our friends over at realestateagentsitrust.com. In these unprecedented times,
Bing.
make sure you're not moving to Michigan, number one.
Curse of Connor Stallions right there. That's what that
Indeed.
is.
Make sure you're not moving to Michigan. All right. Connor Stallion's trying to get the hell out of Michigan, by the way. All right. I know that for a fact. Clips like that aren't helping. All right. Real Estate Agents I Trust is where you can go to find a real estate agent that you'll be recommending to your loved ones, except if you're moving to Michigan. There's probably no hope there. Or California, or Delaware, Rhode Island, Oregon, Washington State. Never mind. Just...
We must start chain smoking habits with our advertisers.
Yes. Let's try this again. In these unprecedented times.
Bing!
Thank you. Make sure you get a real estate agent that you can trust, that you'll be recommending to your loved ones for years to come. Where can you find them? The name says it all. Realestateagentsitrust.com is where you can go to find a top-performing agent whose track record of success has been verified, or they wouldn't be recommended to you. So whether it's across town, across state, across the planet, wherever you are looking to go, across the cosmos. realestateagentsitrust.com is where you want to go to get started. realestateagentsitrust.com. Did you see the clip from a couple days ago? Elon Musk on Rogan?
Yeah.
Talking about aliens and UFOs?
Because you told me about it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I did tell you about it. Yeah. And Musk said, listen, no one has invested more in space exploration in the history of our species as an individual than I have. And I have seen zero evidence, zero, of intelligent life out there in the universe.
You know how that made me feel? It made me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. And then I get online today.
Yeah.
And apparently the Vatican's going to weigh in on this.
That's right. I forgot. Going to baptize aliens?
No.
Yeah. He said, hey, and he even told Rogan, listen, even if at the risk of my own life, should I uncover such evidence, I will come and bring it to you and your audience first, I promise. He told him that. So there's that. All right. I want to tease the overtime. Dick Cheney's death and his ultimate legacy. And I'm going to tee this up now. All right. Dick Cheney failed precisely because he was not what his detractors claimed. And I'm going to explain that in the overtime today. If he was a ruthless, mercantilist level industrialist
who would shoot you in the face.
That's exactly right. That was beyond savage in his realpolitik, he wouldn't have failed. And I will explain that today in the overtime. He failed precisely because he wasn't what his detractors thought, which is what I was frankly at the time hoping he was, as a matter of fact. So we'll get into that in the overtime today for Blaze TV subscribers. blazetv.com/Deace. Use the code Deace. You get $20 off to subscribe today. blazetv.com/Deace. Let's get to the rest of Aaron's montage. Let's start at the top with Tucker's apology. And I think it should be noted that he injected that on his own in that clip and made a point of order almost when you watch that clip. Hey, I got something I want to say first and foremost. You saw more of the affable, likable Tucker that has been his public persona for going on 30 years. And I will tell you, as someone who modestly knows him and knows others who know him very well, that's more in line of what his personality is also in private. I mean, we're talking about a guy that will pick up the check at every restaurant and give you the shirt off his back. And this level of haughtiness and arrogance towards the Israel debate is not typical of how he does business either in public or even privately, which is one of the reasons why it has so many people, frankly, disturbed. So I thought that was a very good move for him to do that. You know, in some respects with people you can't win. On one hand, people are going to say, oh, sure, go on Dave Smith, who has some of the same crazy views on Israel and apologize there. But it could also be said, you could flip that the other way and say, by doing it there to Dave and his audience and speaking up for, hey, the Christian Zionists are often the people that are the most trustworthy in our culture, that you could say it was also brave by doing it on that audience at the exact same time, since they have a tendency to be even more negative towards so-called Christian Zionism in Israel than even Tucker has demonstrated thus far. You see what I'm trying to say? You can't win. You can't win. And you really can't win when you platform favorably somebody like Fuentes. That's going to create more suspicion. On the other hand, I wanted to acknowledge also right off the top that I thought that was some very useful humility by Tucker. And I'm glad, Aaron, thank you for putting that in the montage. Todd, your thoughts?
No, agreed. This is the part about me over the years as we've talked about Tucker post Fox and who he is. He strikes me inauthentic in a way that I identify with. He goes to, he's asking these weird people for conversations because he sees the world changing. He sees the past and the way the right did things as a flat earth that, if nothing else, led to Trump totally overturning that apple cart. And so he's like, I'm going to try to find out what's going on with some very weird conversations and try to take the temperature of the room. I get that. And so that level of authentic, that apology, even when the apologies do come across these days, no matter who they're from, rarely do they seem authentic. That seemed like a real guy who said, I screwed up. I'm sorry. Now, I didn't see any of the other clips. I don't know if ultimately some of the other clips basically water that down. I don't know. But based on that clip alone, I think that's a real apology, and I think we should take it.
Don't disagree. All right. Yesterday, we talked about some political calculations, and one of them was the filibuster, right? And the three of us came to the conclusion that not wanting to do something because you fear your side will not maximize the opportunity in your favor to the extent that the other side will do it to your detriment is not the same as, if we do this, then the other side, what would they do to us instead? Because that's an argument from, an era that I wish we could return to. I would love to. And I held on for as long as I possibly could, believing we were still in that era until it became very obvious that I could no longer deny it or I was going to become David French. All right? So, and let it break my brain.
You did. That's true.
Okay. I held on as long as I could, man. I did. And then it was just very clear, all right, it's a zero-sum game. This is a spiritual war, and all right, I guess I'm all in that.
We don't have to guess what they're going to do to us. They did it to us. They promised to do it again.
Correct.
Mamdani is happening.
Correct. And I'll get to that too in a minute. But we came to the conclusion there is a distinction between they're already doing that to us, so we don't care about that. But if we allow a rule of engagement that we are not confident our side will fully exploit, then you're cutting off your nose despite your face. We do think that's different than the other argument. We came to that conclusion yesterday, right?
That's true.
And so I said, hey, I didn't even ask you where you guys even stood on the filibuster. In fact, I just said for me, stand alone, I'd love to get rid of the filibuster. I just don't trust the generals that we have in charge of our army. If we do that, the juice won't be worth the squeeze. I mean, what they're going to do with that compared to what we are going to do with that, with this current lineup of generals, that's a loss leader to me. All right, and we all came to that conclusion yesterday, right? Mm-hmm. Well, Trump has entered a different variable into the calculus I think we now need to consider, which is the odds of winning the midterms next year if we're just going to have this constant rigor mortis and paralysis and can't move an agenda. And we're at the stage now where he's pretty much exhausted what he can do via executive order. And now it's a battle of, does he want to stand up to the courts? How much do the courts want to stop him from implementing that? So again, rigor mortis sets in, okay? And he is saying, hey, if we don't get rid of that. Now, I would argue to the president, another way to get rid of that is for you to stop, bending over for judges. That would be one way, right? But he's also right. This would be another way, is to just get rid of the filibuster, and we have the numbers and just pass everything on a straight, can you get to 40? Can you get to 50? And if so, then the vice president, breaks the tie. Okay. He's saying we will lose them. The odds go up greatly if we lose that. We'll lose the midterms next year if we don't do this. I have been saying from the beginning, and I think you guys, for the most part, agree, that if we lose the midterms next year, much of the Trump presidency, particularly on the domestic side, is over. And the next 2 years are nothing but Democrat investigations, impeachments, not just of Trump, but of the very cabinet officials we like the most, the RFKs, the Hegseths of the world, et cetera. Okay. They're all facing inquiries and impeachment, right? This whole thing grinds down to a halt, right? And so, here is, I think, the new calculus then on this. If we agree, we all agreed yesterday, we don't trust the testicular fortitude of our generals to fully exploit a weapon of mass destruction like that. So entering that into the theater of war is basically telling the other side, you're free to rout us. That's what we all agreed, right? But if the new calculus is the odds they will have the power next year or after next year greatly increase if we don't do it. Does that change? First of all, do you agree with Trump on that? And then if you do, then I think you have to ask, then is that worth the backside risk that we articulated yesterday then, in that case? Thoughts?
I appreciate and agree with both sides. I agreed with you in theory yesterday, but I don't even believe you went so far to say, and I didn't, about what I would still do in practice, because this takes me back to the conversations we had about Convention of States, Steve. And I think I was the most sheepish about the whole thing at the time when we were talking about it with Mark, about what kind of Pandora's box are we opening up? Mm-hmm. And then sooner or later, I got to the conclusion, I just don't care anymore. And that's how I am with this. You are right in theory about what you laid out with our side not being able to use that weapon. But if Trump is stepping in on this, I'm on Trump's side on this thing. We don't have a representative republic as the founders designed anymore. Most of the people there don't want to do the work. And every time Chip Roy comes on the show, he reminds us of that. He's out there, carrying all kinds of water as much as he can. But the reason you've talked about him and Andy Biggs and people like that going back where real power is because most men and women there are on a reality TV show. If Donald Trump is in on this, I'm in on him with it because the legislative process is broken at the federal level.
So basically your position is, and this is why it sounds to me you're aligning with Trump on this. Your position is if we lose the midterms, the odds also greatly go up. We're going to lose in 28. And at that point, we don't have the luxury of being concerned about what Democrats will do without a filibuster for the next 5 to 10 years. Our way of life is essentially over. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
That's your calculus.
And it's not,
That's
yes,
your math.
It's my math, and that's not a guess. I lived from 2020 to 2025. I saw what happened.
All right. So there you see Todd doing the math. Aaron, where do you come down on this?
So let's just game theory this out. Let's pretend the Republicans' first order of business after nuking the filibuster is passing a law that requires states to provide proof to the federal government or just proof in general, so, publicly available data that every single voter in their elections are citizens of the United States. Is Tom Tillis going to vote for that bill? Are there going to be enough Republicans who vote for that bill in the Senate? Yes or no? If the answer to that question is no, do not nuke the filibuster.
That's a great point, too.
If the answer to that question is yes, nuke the filibuster.
Yep.
Here's the problem. The signature piece of legislation that President Trump has passed in his first year was the Big Beautiful Bill, which was what? Passed during the budget reconciliation process, which allowed them to bypass the 60 vote threshold. Right. So if there are not going to be fundamental things that at the very least encourage or all but that are basically zero-sum pieces of legislation to help you retain power, and you're not totally sure that that can make it past your freaking puke brigade in the Republican Senate, then the answer to nuking the filibuster is no.
So essentially, now I liked your point too there. You would essentially say to the president, are you sure you have the leverage to get retirees like Mitch McConnell, Tom Tillis, they're retiring, because we can only lose, 3? Is it 3 in the Senate?
Something like that, yeah.
3 or 4, all right? So that you have the power because he has no sway over guys retiring. They don't care. Their golden egg, their golden parachute on K Street is already set. So he can't leverage Tillis. He can't leverage McConnell. I don't know if those are the only retirements. The first two that comes off, the top of my head. So you're saying then, retirements aside, Mr. President, can you assure us that you can get 50 votes on these key pieces of legislation so J.D. Vance can break the tie? I think that's an excellent follow-up question, Todd. I do.
I do think it's excellent, but I actually think it from a certain point of view, can work to my advantage. The filibuster, by definition, if you read why it doesn't play out in terms of this 60 vote threshold as it was originally intended. But that aside, the founders had a reason for having this, but it was with people who shared a general vision of what America was. Mm-hmm. We don't have that anymore. We need to be honest about that. The filibuster in a future that we rescue might be worth it.
Senators were also tied to their state legislators and more directly accountable.
Right now, it is a lie that we tell to ourselves, and I think we just need to expose it, even if it hurts. Yes, if those two SOBs want to take this nation down with that kind of vote, let everybody see it and who they're aligning with. We just lie to ourselves so much. We cannot have a filibuster when Democrats and Republicans are absolutely at odds on the definitions of reality itself.
Aaron, you okay with that? You want to counter to that at all? You good?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. That sounds nice. That sounds principled. That sounds, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Let's just tear the mask off. What this will be, and we're going to head to that future anyway. I just want to see, do we have a plan in place here?
Yeah.
Is there a strategy?
Yeah.
What we cannot afford to do is just be kamikaze pop.
Just doing stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. We're going to do things.
I agree.
Yep. All right. Mamdani, for the last 5 years, I've been calling the Democratic Party a demonic construct. And if you want further confirmation of why that's not a rhetorical flourish, but an adequate, apt description, just look at today's New York City mayoral election. I mean, you have Andrew Cuomo, who became governor of New York, and the first piece of legislation he signed was you could literally kill a live baby if you wanted to. He then said, if you're pro-lifer, get the hell out of New York. We don't want you here in our state. And he murdered people's elderly parents and grandparents during COVID. Just murdered them. versus the guy whose worldview led to the murder of 3,000 New Yorkers, the greatest tragedy, arguably in American history, that happened right there in the heart of the city. And, I mean, those are the two Democrats that are, one of them's getting elected mayor tonight, one of those two guys. That's nihilism incarnate, is what that is. And nihilism is the natural habitat of hell. Despair, hopelessness, nihilism. We'll talk more about that election in the final segment of the show, but the thing you need to understand, and this ties actually to what Tucker said in his apology at the top, it is not the people that believe this Israel is a prophetic place that they're not the people trying to kill you. More often than not, it's the people who don't think it's a prophetic place that are trying to kill you. All right, not everybody who thinks this Israel is a prophetic place is trying to kill you, but everybody trying to kill you doesn't think it's a prophetic place. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. See, Pam Bondi's report and arrests elsewhere in Aaron's montage. It is not the people who believe this is the same Israel as Old Testament brought together again who are trying to kill you. It's the people who believe in a make-believe place called Palestine that are trying to do so. And all this conversation about Israel and policy is distracting from the larger worldview consequence. Tonight, New York City is going to either elect an Islamist mayor or the very kind of politician who, for the last generation, with his demonic, heinous policies, set the stage for something like that. Tonight, America loses. It's just a matter of which L you prefer to take. And I think you're going to see more and more clips of Mamdani, like Aaron had in there in his voters, where this is Marxism also, the useful idiot. How's nefarious plot? Where did the idea for a nefarious plot come from? In the shower in Washington, D.C., getting ready to go do PR for my first wide release book, Rules for Patriots, and this comes into my head. This book is dedicated to all the useful idiots out there, especially those of you who had no idea you were being used all this time, for you proved to be the most useful idiots of them all, nefarious. That woman in that clip that Aaron showed you, she's a useful idiot. Satanic, demonic doctrines of demons, Marxism among them, always require useful idiots, always. No, I don't think his policies will work, so why are you voting for him? I promise you she hasn't thought that through. The fool says in his heart there is no God. Easy pickings. This is Obama all over again. It's the same thing. The desire to show virtue. The caught up in the excitement of the charismatic leader. And we saw during COVID, we saw the entire world without a shot fired or a treaty signed. Regardless of ideology, theology, political methodology. The entire world, oligarchy, democracy, monarchy, republic, alike, all immediately, like a Thanos snap, just impose the same draconian Byzantine policies on its citizenry. And now you are seeing someone who, via charisma, is getting people to vote and act against their own self-interest and doing so gleefully. And they're anxious to demonstrate, as Todd likes to say, their willful ignorance. That's a Left Behind book. That's the stuff of antichrists and end of days kinds of kingdoms. That's not to say I'm not here to defend you. We don't do eisegesis here. So we're not saying because of cultural conditions, certain biblical doctrines are or are not true. What I am saying, though, is if you think some of those biblical interpretations of the end of days are too fantastical to come true, you're wrong about that. And the last 5 years has taught us that, sadly and tragically. Jesus said the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. The enemy has his version of that as well. The harvest is plenty because plenty are the useful idiots, ready to be plucked. More in a moment. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show. You know, there are some investments that do last forever. Stocks can rise or fall. Homes can lose value. Even gold can fade compared to where it is right now. But what really endures? Life. A recent Danish study revealed something heartbreaking. Women who experience the murder of their own children dramatically more likely to need psychiatric care in the months that follow, which makes sense. Their consciences have been pricked, and you have an option there. Either you confront that trauma and seek Christ's forgiveness, or you sear your conscience, harden your heart like Pharaoh, and turn your back on God. We've seen this play out in our own elections. But inside a preborn clinic, a very different story begins. A woman in crisis is welcomed. She's given comfort, not pressure, but she is confronted. It's a different tone than maybe the kind of confrontation I do, but it's a confrontation nevertheless. She sees her baby for the first time on that ultrasound. That flicker of life becomes something more than a medical image. It becomes hope. Not only that, preborn stays with her for the journey ahead when she chooses life. Prenatal, postnatal, with counseling, clothing, baby supplies, encouragement that can last for up to 2 years. In other words, with hope. If you want to keep that hope going, you guys have been so generous over the last few years with this partnership between Preborn and The Blaze. You've helped them save tens of thousands of babies every single year that we have been partnered together. So let's finish strong and even more generously. All right. Dial pound 250, say the keyword baby on your mobile phone right now to make a tax-deductible donation to Preborn, a 5-star rated charity. Or go to preborn.com/Steve. Again, that's preborn.com/Steve. Well, I got a chance to take a look at this a few days ago when a copy arrived at my house, and it is beautiful. It's called the Peace of God Bible. Discover and experience God's shalom through the Bible. Put together by my good friend, Dr. Jeremiah Johnston, who joins us now on The Blaze. It's good to see you, brother. How are you?
Steve, I'm better now that I'm seeing you, brother. I appreciate you having me on to celebrate what was 4 years of my life, writing 126,000 words of notes on, wow. I think it's the most important theme in all the Bible, this word shalom, that's translated 70 different ways in one English translation alone. And so, man, I was so excited to send it to you and Amy. And the cool thing about this project is I'm just glad it's done because it was 4 years of my life. But, you know, I'm sitting here. This is my nook where I create all of the content the Holy Spirit speaks to me about. And I'm a busy dad of 5. I have 2 teenagers. I have triplet boys, age 9, been married 21 years. We need more peace in the Johnston home.
Amen.
We all need peace. We all need, and especially with everything happening in culture now, we need the peace of God. And so to be able to focus on 651 passages in the Bible that use this key word shalom and to write notes accordingly, Steve, there were so many times I had to push away from this desk where I'm broadcasting to you from right now, and I had to get on my knees and say, Lord, I want to wrap myself in this truth. So it's changed my life, and I know it's going to change the lives of everybody that reads it.
That's one heck of a pitch, my friend. So where did this concept begin? Was it, hey, just something very practical, could use a little piece in my life? Was it something else that inspired this?
Probably when I was losing my mind when we found out we were having triplets and I had to buy 700 diapers a month. I'm sure that had a little bit to do with it. I needed to learn more about the peace of God. But as you know, I'm a Bible scholar. I'm a historical Jesus scholar. And the job of Christian apologetics is to answer the questions that culture is asking today about our faith. A lot of people think that apologetics is answering questions that people had 2,000 years ago. Well, no, it's actually answering the questions that today people have, making sure our faith connects up well with the questions culture's asking. And Steve, like you, I mean, I get calls, emails, messages every day. And this question of anxiety, which is epidemic in our country and in the world, is an apologetics question. And so really it birthed out of need that, you know, we have, it's kind of crazy. We have the Bible, you know, the NASCAR lovers study Bible. We have the Catwoman Bible. We have the Bible in the Star Trek Klingon language, but there's never been a Bible dedicated to this theme of shalom. And meanwhile, we can tell by the angst in our society. And also it was birthed out of, I began to speak at a lot of conferences with psychologists, psychiatrists, but also with pastors and preachers. And Steve, what I like about you and what I love about your show is you get beyond all the cliches on your program. You get beyond all the fortune cookie theology, the bumper sticker Christianity, and you equip us with immediate next steps. And I wanted to be able to equip my family and myself with the immediate next steps of how do we actually live in the shalom of God beyond just slapping a Bible verse on someone. How do we live in that discipline? And so I got to dig in to what the Bible says. And keep in mind, this word peace shows up more than faith. It shows up more than grace. It, of course, shows up more than love or judgment. It is the singular descriptor of the 753,000 words that make up our English Bible. And so I got to study that. And that's how it was birthed. That's where the idea was birthed from, just to give those immediate next steps from a historical Jesus scholar on what Jesus meant in John 14:27 when he said, "Shalom, I give you, my shalom I give you, not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid."
So shalom, what does it mean? And obviously, if this is referenced hundreds of times in the Bible, then this is a theme that clearly God wants to get our attention with. Tell us why.
It's beautiful, and it's different than the Greek word eirene. Eirene is like, you might know a female named Irene. That's from the Greek word eirene. And that simply means, Steve, an absence of conflict or a truce. That is not biblical shalom. In 11 of Paul's 12 epistles, and who knows if he wrote Hebrews, we could add that as well, the author of Hebrews, they always say grace, charis, and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. What do they mean by that? Do they mean an absence of conflict in our life? Do they mean just a truce? Are we supposed to all just live in a constant truce? No, this is where the Hebrew shalom is so rich. It means to be made whole, Steve. It means to lack nothing. It means to literally flourish in the face of my adversity. That's not health and wealth gospel. It's Judges chapter 6. I have it open in my Bible because I remember writing the notes for Judges chapter 6. The first time that Gideon, he literally meets the angel of the Lord. Think about this. He has to go attack and kill all the Midianites. And the angel of the Lord 4 times says, "Gideon, God is with you." Now listen, Steve, Moses only had to hear it once that God was with him, and he led the children of Israel out of Egypt through the Red Sea in the Exodus. Joshua only had to hear that God was with him one time, and he had the faith to make the sun stand still. Gideon was having a lot of problems in his life. And 4 times the angel of the Lord in Judges 6 and 7 says, "I'm with you, Gideon. I'm with you. I'm with you." And then Gideon's like, "I don't see it, God." That's where a lot of us are at right now. "God, I don't see you with me. All I see are the Midianites on the horizon." And yet Gideon decides to call God. And this is the first time God has actually called this Yahweh Shalom. He gets on his knees and he says, "Lord, even though I don't feel it, I'm going to wrap myself in the truth that you say you're with me." Now, I still have to go fight my battles, but I can go fight the adversity and the battles and kill the Midianites in the peace of God. And so that's why he built an altar and he said, "My God is peace." And so in the notes of the Peace of God Study Bible, I help you pray that prayer, "My God is peace." We still have to all go fight our battles, okay? But doing it in the peace of God, doing it in the center of God's will for my life, having that faith that Romans 15:13 talks about, a joy and a peace that literally fills us with so much hope we can face any obstacle, that's biblical shalom. And we've all met people, Steve, that have this. They have no reason from, if you look at the surroundings, if you look at the circumstances they're facing, and yet they have this peace that passes all understanding. And I wanted to keep asking myself, what were the next steps? How did Gideon go from freaking out to saying, "My God is peace"? And that's what we explore in the Bible.
To put this in layman's terms, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds to me like what you're describing is a confident contentment.
That's right. in the unsurpassing control of God in my life, knowing that God is in total control of my life no matter what. And I'm going to leave the results up to him. My job is to trust. My job is to obey. But there's so much bad teaching out here. And again, see, this is why I love you. It's why I watch your program religiously. It's why I follow everything you tweet. We've got to get beyond the fortune cookie Christianity on this. The little just, let's slap.
You mean where Jeremiah 29:11 is our life verse and we completely forget literally every other verse in Jeremiah? You mean stuff like that?
No, there's a context there. And you know what, though? There are 651 places in the Bible where shalom is described. And I was recently doing the Steps of the Apostle Paul, a journey of Paul's trip that I led. And I saw Troas. Troas is where the Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians 2, verse 13, Steve, has a total panic attack. I begin my study Bible this way with Paul's panic attack in Troas. In 2 Corinthians 2:13, Paul says, and this is on the second missionary journey, he says, I have a huge door open to me in Troas. But he said, I have no shalom. I have no peace of mind. And the force of the Greek text is Paul left that city never wanting to return. And yet 7 years later, he returns during the third missionary journey, Steve, and he performs his greatest miracle. That place that was his trigger became his triumph in Jesus. Remember, he preaches so long, poor Eutychus falls out of the window and dies, and Paul has to raise him from the dead. That happens in Troas, this city where 7 years earlier, he said, I have no peace of mind. And so I had to ask myself, how did Paul go from no peace of mind, don't want to be here anymore, this is a trigger in my life, to living in triumph? And that's what the peace of God can do for us. Paul had to get a peace plan, Steve, and he elucidates that in Philippians chapter 4. And one of the cool payoffs of this Bible is I help people understand that hope and peace will only come in my life when I plan for it. You know, you have a very intelligent audience, Steve. They plan for their finances. They plan for their social calendars. They plan for their business calendars. They probably have life insurance policies and retirement policies. Why don't we plan for the peace of God in our life like the Apostle Paul did? He gives us a plan in Philippians 4. He said, there were things I had to get out of my mind. And then there's truth I have to fill my mind with. And then I have to anchor this peace, not in my feelings, but in this Greek word logizomai. It's an accounting term, by thinking, by appropriating, by wrapping myself in these truths again and again and again. And if Paul had to do that, we need to do it as well. We all need a peace plan.
So let's talk about that plan, and let's make this very practical. I mean, given the size of this audience, someone's listening right now who just suffered a horrible breakup, is maybe in the throes of a divorce, just got some terrible news about themselves or a loved one from a doctor, right? Is estranged from their adult children, and they've kind of, wandered off the narrow road to become prodigals. We could go on and on and on, right? And they're listening right now and they're thinking, man, I need this in my life. I don't just want this. I need this in my life right now. What would you suggest they do right after this interview?
Absolutely. Number one, peace will only come from Jesus Christ. So we can talk about all the practical things we want, and I have many. I have 20 things in my practical peace plan that I aspire to every single day to help me live in the peace of God. One of them is say no more often for the bigger yes in my life. People have so many opportunities in their life. We all say yes to too many things. We need to say no for the values of our life. Another one is get outside. Steve, I live under, like you do, a constant burden of deadlines and content, like many of your audiences. But guess what? I got to get outside. I got to go walk. I've got to get in my church, my local church, which is a huge part of my personal peace plan. But I want to start with the theological underpinnings. It's Romans 5, verse 1. Peace with God has to precede having the peace of God in my life. Okay, I was just at Dominus Flevit on the eastern side of the Mount of Olives. Jesus weeps in Luke 19, 41 and 42. And remember, Steve, he calls out the religious leaders and he says, weeping, sobbing, if you religious people, even you would have seen the things that bring you peace, but they are hidden from your eyes. There are a lot of religious people that miss the peace of God. Hear me now, because you have missed your personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And so there is a divine order to the peace of God. Number one, Romans 5:1. Therefore, having been justified by faith, not by works, not by going to church, not by giving more, not by my good outweighing my bad. Romans 5:1 says, therefore, having been justified by faith, we have shalom with God through our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. By the way, before we have peace with God, if you keep reading Romans 5, go down to verse 10, we are enemies of God in our sin. He has to judge our sin. And the beauty of the cross is he judged it all on his son, Jesus. And so don't miss step one. Many do. It's faith in Christ to begin a relationship with Jesus. That is shalom that never increases or decreases. That could never be lost. If we could lose it, we would. So I'm talking to a lot of religious people right now. You've not made your personal decision for Christ. You can do it right now. Secondly, then, that's Colossians 3:15, where the peace of God, or the peace of Christ, which I love that translation, will rule in our hearts. And that's where that peace plan comes in, where I have to start reprioritizing my life around the values of God's peace. That means, Steve, I'm going to have to share some hard things for a minute. And I love this because your audience can take it. I love sports. I'm not going to miss every single weekend of local church because local church is part of my family's peace plan. I'm not going to, hey, listen, and I'm not going to be legalistic. We all miss for games, and I'm talking about travel ball that will, these people in my church that vanish for 6 months for sports, and then they wonder why their marriages are a mess because they're not prioritizing their lives to live in the peace of God. Another huge thing is the right kind of content in my life. I have to listen to people like you, Steve, to help me understand truth. We have to stop doom scrolling. We all have these crazy nuclear devices that we touch 2,000 times a day. And, we all see 10,000 media messages a day. So many of them are lies. And so I have to eliminate all the lies from my life. That's part of my peace plan. Do you know what one of my peace plans are? You wanted me to get real practical, Steve? Do you know what I'm working on?
I've got 1 minute, so get really practical.
Say, thank you, Jesus, more often. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. No matter what, I'm trusting in your control in my life.
That's very practical. Just installing a spirit, more of a spirit of thankfulness in your life for sure. All right, how can people get this if they want to study along with you, the peace of God?
Thank you for asking. Go to peaceofgodbible.com. It will take you to Amazon and all the retailers. Comes in all different fun bindings. But again, the payoff is helping you live in the shalom of God every single day. And I'll tell you this, it is God's will for every one of his followers to walk in his peace.
What's next for you, by the way? What are you doing next?
Dude, everything. I've got Israel on the horizon. I've got my new book, Jesus Discoveries, top 10 discoveries of Jesus outside the Bible that bring us face to face with him. That comes out in March. And those discoveries are already making worldwide headlines. Just Google my name with the Jesus cup. You'll see what I mean. So I'm always doing fun stuff, man. And I love you. I love your program. Love the Blaze. And Steve, just keep doing what you're doing because God's using you now more than ever, man.
I appreciate it, man. Same to you. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you.
Blessings. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Again, you can get this also at Amazon. It's all over the place. And folks, I got a chance. I took a look at it and I got a copy of it late last week. It is one heck of a work of craftsmanship, not to mention scholarship. So you'll be really blessed by it. All right, when we come back 1 year from today, we're going to decide the next governor in my state. And I'm going to make an endorsement and explain why in a moment. All right, we're back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast with Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. I am Steve Deace. You can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox by emailing the show, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Please subscribe to our new YouTube channel, at Deace Show on YouTube. Again, that's at Deace Show on YouTube. And then finally, if you dig the podcast, thank you. You guys are the biggest part of our audience. If you haven't done this yet, though, please hit subscribe, or if you're on Apple iTunes, follow. That's how you'll know for sure that every time we do a new episode, it's right there for sure in your feed. And then tens of thousands of you across the country have left us 5-star reviews. We appreciate each and every one of those. We'd appreciate it if you'd leave one today, too. So thank you very much for that as well. And this part of the show brought to you by our friends over at Patriot Mobile. You know, every choice we make today is an opportunity to stand for freedom, even something as simple as who's your mobile phone provider. So here's the truth. Most cell phone providers, they don't care about you. They just want your money. They don't care about your country or your values. But Patriot Mobile is different. For over a decade now, they've stood with Americans who believe in faith, family, and freedom. contributing millions of dollars to Christian and conservative causes all over the country. I've seen firsthand evidence of this myself. And the best part is you don't have to sacrifice quality or service in order to stand for what you believe in the marketplace. They offer premium access on all 3 major U.S. networks, so you'll enjoy the same or better premium coverage than you get from a lot of the communist carriers. And switching isn't complicated. Keep your number, switch your number, upgrade your phone, keep your phone. They've even got a contract buyout program. If you're stuck in a deal with a communist country or communist corporation you don't think you can get out of, they can probably help you with that too. You can't beat it. It's been our family's mobile phone provider now for going on 5 years. So wouldn't recommend him to you if we weren't using him ourselves. Use the promo code Steve to get started now with a free month of service when you go to patriotmobile.com/Steve. That's patriotmobile.com/Steve. And if you use the promo code Steve, you'll get started with a free month of service today at patriotmobile.com/Steve. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, you want to talk about ethical quandaries. If you are a Christian and you are in New York City today, or theoretically if you were, how would you vote in that election? Yikes. So we're going to play some fake news or not, coming up with that a little bit later on the show. But what is not fake news is that 1 year from today are the midterm elections. And my home state has one of the most, pivotal gubernatorial elections in the United States of America. And our state, we have bragged on our state quite a bit for going on a decade here on this show, how red this state has become. And that is work that it took about a decade to get to this point before the policies. Some of us had to work the ground in this state for a decade so that then when the right people got elected or came to power, we would then be able to have the last almost a decade of policies we have to make this state as red as it currently is. The state of Iowa that not too long ago sent Tom Harkin's mailbox to the U.S. Senate for over 30 years is now among the reddest states in the country. But now we have an open fight for our governor race with Kim Reynolds deciding not to run again. And it's funny, you have kids, they grow up, and then they have kids, and you actually start thinking about the future more than even you did before. And when you're raising the kids yourself, I think a lot of times you have a tendency to just see things as, okay, let's just get through today. Let's just get through the pay period. Let's just get through the school year, right? And I think then maybe you reach a station in life where you might be making the most money you ever had, or at the very least, without kids in the house, less money's going out than was before. And you start thinking about the future and maybe have a broader lens than you did when you were in the throes of those child-rearing years. And that's kind of the stage of life that I am at right now. When I held Anna, Noah, and Zoe for the first time, it was, how do I not screw this up in the next 72 hours? When I held my granddaughter, my first grandbaby, Autumn, for the first time, I thought, all right, how do we not screw up the next 20 years? We have to win this governor's election in the state of Iowa. We have put the Democratic Party in our state in a shallow grave. We cannot let them out. We cannot let them begin to wreak havoc with our state that is setting an example, I think, for the rest of the country. And that is why I'm going to make an endorsement in our state's governor's race today, because it's a must win. It's one we have to absolutely win. And if you're in New York today, your options are very limited. And I want to make sure that our options are not limited. And I think we're going to need more than, well, he's the Republican nominee to win this election. I think we're going to need to be able to inspire people, to sell people. I know that it's not good for business for me to tell you truths like this, but it's why I do it anyway. The reality is the Democrats have a very competent candidate that they are getting set to run. And to deny that would just be a farce. And the stuff of, engagement farming and clickbait. He's already won a statewide election already in a very red state, just to prove my point. So we're going to need to have a strong candidate on our end as well. Somebody who can contrast with him. One of the things that the Democrat nominee loves to do, for example, is to take the word of God completely out of context. Instead of running from religion, he's actually trying to co-opt it. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it works out. So we're going to need somebody that doesn't run from our Christian heritage, doesn't run from our evangelical base, isn't afraid to defend those values, even could defend them if they wanted to. someone who has actual governing experience, who on day one could take over and run this state. And then thirdly, someone who understands what time it is for the future, right? We actually don't want to just stay where we are. We want to move the state into the future. And that's going to require looking at things differently. The previous generation was all about, hey, how do I get my kids into a good college? The current generation is, how do I not raise gay race communists? Now, how do they have a future? Right? So those three things I think will be vital to winning this Iowa governor's race, which is why today, without further ado, I'm going to be endorsing Adam Steen for governor of Iowa. He's the former chief operating officer, really, of the state, not the official title, but that was essentially his job. He ran the day-to-day nuts and bolts of government in Iowa. One of the reasons why, until his run for governor, you don't see a huge political profile from Adam is because that job would not permit it. His job was to actually be the objective voice in the room. That's legal, that's not. That we can do, that we can't. Here's what we can do with the policies, and here's what we can't do. He knows where all the bodies are buried. Unlike a lot of evangelicals who run for office for the first time that have the right worldview, but they can't demonstrate they can actually run the office they're running for, Adam has already done that. So then we get into worldview. And I mentioned evangelical. Adam is, he's a minister, former Assembly of God pastor. He's also built a very successful entrepreneurial business. Got drafted by the Philadelphia Phillies, tried to make it in Major League Baseball, and that didn't work. Came home and made ends meet on his own as an entrepreneur. And then he understands where we're going in the future. He has young kids at home. He's also taking a look at a broader perspective of what does the future entail? There must be something better for the next generation, particularly of our boys and young men, than go rack up 7 and 8 digits of student loan debt to become a gay race communist and not actually earn a living. There's got to be more to life than that. So for me, Adam checks absolutely every box, which is why I'm proud to endorse Adam for governor today, and that I hope and expect I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to exhaust every resource I can to help Adam win the primary here in Iowa next June, and then the governor's race 1 year from today. And in fact, we have Adam with us here today on the show. So wanted to introduce you to the audience as well, brother. How are you?
I'm great, Steve. Thank you. I'm honored to be here, honored for the endorsement.
Well, you earned it, man, for sure. And I just want to give you a chance just to kind of react to before I ask any specific questions, sort of just what I laid out from a big picture standpoint and where the race is at and why this is so crucial, not just for those of us that live in Iowa, but really for people all over the country that are tuned in right now.
No, absolutely. When Governor Reynolds announced that she was not going to run again, I think it shocked a lot of people. It shocked me, shocked my family. We came together and we said, we have to do this. We have to preserve and protect the culture of Iowa. We have to preserve and protect the freedom of Iowa. And we can't sit idly by and let someone else come in and decimate this state. The Democrats smell blood in the water right now, and they're going to do everything they can to flip this state from red to blue, and I am not going to let that happen. So I jumped in this race to preserve and protect it, and I'm not backing down from that. My background, as you mentioned, is custom fit for such a time as this, and I'm all in. Absolute surrender to the Lord and the Lord's will, and He's clearing a path. We're following it, and good things are happening across this state right now.
One thing I didn't mention in the endorsement, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up, is I knew your dad very well. Mm-hmm. And your late father and I had many meetings in his offices and in my basement, plotting out how we were going to stop the establishment from screwing us over and allowing Democrats to run this state absolutely forever.
Yep.
All right. We had many conversations about that back in the day. Indeed. And now you are here kind of as the fulfillment of what his desires were when he was civically and politically active in our state a decade or so ago.
Yeah.
And you know, it's different here because we won the battle on the ground first and then acquired power. So we have moved the entirety of our state more to the right, not just won elections, but the entire culture of our state is way to the right of where it was 15 years ago, or almost 20 years ago now when I first appeared on WHO radio here in Des Moines. So how do we maintain that?
Yeah.
And I tell me what you think what you think of what I said about your likely Democratic opponent in Rob Sand, who did manage to win a statewide election in a state as red as ours, as state auditor. So he's already been tested at the polls. He is a competent candidate. I think to just sit here and act like everybody's Kamala Harris and that or Nancy Pelosi space cadet, there's plenty of those, but to just act like it when it's not true, I think disarms us and puts us in a position of not doing what it will take to win. We're going to need somebody articulate, smart, telegenic, can connect with people. And he is wielding, if you see this, for those of you that live outside of Iowa, it's very odd for how you see Democrats behave. But in our state, Rob Sand every day on social media is dropping scripture references, Bible verses. He fully intends to wade into this rather than run from it. He's going to wade in with his aberrant, heterodoxical views on this. And for us to put a Republican out there who is ashamed of our base, like Randy Feenstra, the congressman, demonstrated when he didn't even come to the largest gathering of Christian conservatives in the state in July for Bob Vander Plaats's event. He's nowhere to be found really with any of our church leaders anywhere across the state. I can just foresee a scenario, and I've played this one out with the likes of Mitt Romney and John McCain before, which is this: Barack Obama did the same thing to both of those men, just bastardized the Bible and Bible values. They didn't know the Bible. They were ashamed of God's people, ran from it, and got the worst of both worlds, Adam. They, on one hand, they got the stigma of being attached to us, and then on the other hand, they got none of the benefit of it because they didn't believe in our people, they didn't like our people, trust our people, and ran from that assignment. And I think we're going to need someone that can stand up to Rob Sand's attempts here to bastardize the Bible in full view of the people of Iowa.
Yeah. I think we need two things on those sides. One, we need somebody who's willing to get up and speak truth and call good, good, call evil, evil, and point out the difference in the two. Biblical truth through and through, and you need somebody who's willing to get up there, say that, defend that, and can defend that through Scripture, can defend that through their personal testimony. But we also need somebody who understands who Rob Sand is. And fortunately, I attempted to work with him for 5 years.
Yeah, you've done battle with him head-to-head for every day, every work day for the last 5 years.
He never showed up to work. Yeah. He's been campaigning for 7 years.
Yeah.
And so what you have in a candidate with me is somebody who not only can defend their worldview, cannot only defend biblical truth, but is also willing to point out good and point out evil and talk about the differences between the two. But then also with somebody who's unwilling to show up for work. I know where the bodies are buried. I know what he did and didn't do in his office as auditor. And so you've got somebody who not only can compete on the business side of things, but can compete on the worldview side of things as well. I
know that you were proud to come in and get this endorsement today, but you already had received, I think, the most important endorsement in this race. And that is the literal Church of Satan. You were endorsed by the Church of Satan in a way. You are the only political candidate in America that I know of that is currently being sued by the Church of Satan for refusing to allow them to have a sequel in our Capitol last year. And again, I mean, I go back to, and I'm going to bring up Randy Feenstra again because it's a two-person race. It's down to him and you for this primary. And what I'm fascinated by is Congress has not been working for a month and a half. And yet, where's this guy been almost this entire time? He does a campaign announcement where he just puts a video out on social media. Where is he working our base? Where is he showing up and trying to inspire our base? And our base is overwhelmingly evangelical in the Republican Party of Iowa. I don't see him trying to engage those kinds of people at all. We're going to need Kim Reynolds, Donald Trump, max level turnout of that base to win this midterm election next year. We cannot take them for granted at all. And at the same time, I can see Rob Sand working the kind of game in taking the Bible and our values out of context and co-opting them, just like we saw Obama do. And if you don't think that could work in Iowa, Obama won this state twice with those kinds of tactics. I think we have to be able to inspire our base.
Absolutely. I see no inspiration from Randy Feenstra at all. I've been traveling the state for 2.5 months, probably a little bit longer at this point. I've seen Randy at 3 events. He shows up late.
They've not been working for a month and a half. Where has he been?
Don't know. I have no idea. The guy's been running away. I called him out in an event in Shelby County that was focused on eminent domain, which is the #1 issue right now in the state of Iowa. And I got up and I said, where is Randy Feenstra? Why is he not answering questions? Why is he not here stating his position? Guy's not working. Why isn't he here? He got the loudest applause in the entire room. And here now we have him creeping out of the basement, just like Joe Biden tried to creep out of the basement, couldn't make it. There is in there's no chance that he's going to incite a base because he's not willing to come out. He's not willing to talk to people, doesn't understand the issues. His team put out a poll in Iowa to find out if eminent domain was actually an issue here in the state. Tell me you're disconnected without telling me you're disconnected. Mm-hmm. It's insanity.
So I think the problem that Feenstra and his campaign has is they want to run a 2005 style of campaign. And that's just not the environment that we're in today. We're playing for existential stakes. You have to be willing to speak to deeper themes than just technocratic mumbo jumbo. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to win the future. And what I really like is that you want to pursue a path that provides an option for our young people, particularly our young men, that is, there's more to life than go and get $500,000 or more in student loan debt to be trained to be a gay race communist. There's a way of life and a nice living and a nice heritage for you to inherit, and you want Iowa to lead the way with that. So tell us about it.
Yeah, I spent 18 years traveling the state of Iowa. One of the businesses that I built was the Turkey Fan, turkeyfan.com. Sold my ownership in that. Could not find a manufacturer in Iowa, couldn't find a manufacturer in the United States, had to outsource it in China. And as I traveled around the state, I never forgot about that. And in my travels, and what I see today is an absolute glut and necessity for skilled trades. We have an opportunity right now in skilled trades to provide a future for not just our children, but our children's children. Mm-hmm. And instead of forcing kids into four-year universities that come out as communists with hundreds of thousands of dollars student loan debt, the American dream will never be achievable for them. But through trades, there's actual things that they can do. AI is not going to take those jobs. Mm-hmm. Manufacturers in the state of Iowa right now need kids trained up and ready to go. So there's jobs available now. But then also, instead of the state incentivizing these large corporations to pump AI into their businesses and lay people off, let's incentivize the trades industry. These are businesses that create jobs. The people that show up for jobs, they learn, they start their own businesses. Rural Iowa will be tremendously successful because of this. It's a rural Iowa strategy. It's an Iowa strategy, and it fits with the culture of Iowa. It's a grit strategy. It's a hard work strategy. It's a get up early, go to bed late strategy. It's Iowa through and through, and that is something that we need to be championing on a regular basis.
When you talk about way of life and quality of life, the number one industry in America, when you and I, well, I'm a little older than you, when Todd and I graduated from high school, manufacturing was the number one industry in America in the early 90s. 35 years later, healthcare is. And that just, all the various tentacles culturally go along with that. All the student loan debt, what values you get educated with in order to get those certifications to do those jobs. Also, frankly, what it means about the explosion of chronic disease and everything else in our culture, that there's that level of demand in the healthcare sector for product. But all the trend lines that migrated us from a manufacturing economy to a healthcare economy are all bad. All the fiscal ones are, all the cultural ones are. So this does speak in a way more meta level than just how much money can I make.
Yeah, President Trump has the Million Apprenticeship Program right now. Tag teaming with that, putting those jobs into Iowa. I mean, these kids are going to come out of high school. Skilled trades, these jobs are going to be great. They're going to be cool. They're going to be able to get, they'll be paid $50.
By the way, young men, you know who likes good jobs that pay great? Women. Go ahead, Adam.
That's right. No, that's
women
exactly
like that.
Right.
Yeah,
no, that's exactly right. And
you're about to get way more attractive. Go ahead. Yes.
That's right. You show up dirty, you clean up, you get dirty the next day. Women love that.
Yes.
My wife loves that when I'm outside building stuff that she wants me to build. Mm-hmm. It turns out to be a nice evening. Mm-hmm. So these kids are going to end up in high-paying jobs. They will have no student debt. They'll be able to own their homes. They'll be able to own their vehicles. They'll be able to take their girlfriends out on dates. This is going to be a cool strategy for the state. It's going to be a great strategy for the state. Again, President Trump's already identified this. Aligning with that, creating this across the entire state of Iowa is going to be an unbelievable economic boon for the state.
All right, before you go, you brought up the name President Trump. So let's have a very practical political conversation, because we do have a very unique setting in our party right now where Trump is a de facto king. And I kind of think if you took a bullet to the face for people, you get to be king. I kind of think you've earned it at that point. All right. If you took a bullet to the face for people and then turned around and won the election we could not afford to lose, I'm not here. It's not a judgment. It's just an observation. That's where we are. And a lot of times our base is kind of looking for his leadership and whom he might support, whom he might endorse to decide where they're going to go, right? So make the case for why you are the logical heir. I would say for all the work that many of us did for a decade, and before we started winning electorally to turn this state red, we still struggled to get into rural Iowa because they still saw Republicans as basically south of Grand or K Street establishment corporatist cronies. And it was really Trump who, and his messaging, which is very similar to what you just said, he really helped us unlock how to turn those rural counties that had voted for Obama twice to then turn around and vote for Trump 3 times, and they're now some of the reddest parts of the state, right? So make the case then, pretend someone in the White House is listening. I am confident at some point someone in the White House will listen to this. Yeah. Make the case then that you are the one that is logical to carry on Trump's legacy of success in helping turn Iowa red as the next governor of Iowa.
Yeah, there are 3 things that separate me from any other candidate in this state, and that is the governor is the CEO of the state. So at the end of the day, the governor, the CEO of the state, has to be able to operate the state. There isn't a resume that can stand against mine. My resume stands alone. It speaks for itself. I can operate the state on day one. Give me my badge back. I'm ready to go. The second thing is culture. So the CEO's got to operate. The CEO has to be a champion of culture. I will be the largest promoter of skilled trades that this state has ever seen. I will champion families coming back to the dinner table, having conversations with our children, so that they're not lost in this culture. And I will also champion the local church to rise up and be what the local church is called to be, helping our communities, getting the government out of the way. The government has infiltrated our lives. The local church has abdicated its responsibility, and we need to get people to stand up and be bold and do what the local church is supposed to do and fight for our children, fight for our families, and fight for this state. And the third thing is policy. From a policy perspective, I will walk alongside President Trump and his administration and ensure that those big, bold policies that he pushes through and pushes down are carried in this state through and through. And I can do that because I have operated, I understand this culture, and the Senate and the legislature knows that as well. When I was reappointed to my position at the state, I was confirmed 50-0 by both Democrats and Republicans because they knew I was really good at my job. And so those 3 things separate me from the pack and position me to be really custom fit for the position of governor of the state of Iowa.
That's also in contrast to Randy Feenstra. He ran for leadership within our state Senate when he was serving in the legislature here, and his peers would not vote him into a leadership position. I mean, who knows you better than your own peer group? Yeah. Similar to, you got reconfirmed. Yep. The governing people, the governing class, that was your peer group. You were those are the people you were working with, and they confirmed you unanimously.
Yep.
Last thing, assuming again that at some point, if not right now, someone in the White House is listening to this, and they're looking at our governor's race. What do they need to know? I asked you what you need to do to demonstrate that you are the rightful heir to Trump's legacy here in the state of Iowa. But what do they need to know about the people of Iowa and what they think and where they're at right now that might help the White House in understanding the endorsement decision that's before them here in our governor race?
Yeah, 2 things. One, I've been traveling around the state for, again, over 2.5 months. I've been meeting with business owners, with farmers, with individuals all across this state. The first thing is people trust President Trump. They trust him, and they believe in him, and they love him. And they also love the message that I'm carrying forward as well. So I can come into these rooms. We're getting ovations in 3-minute speeches. We're getting 4 or 5 ovations at a time. They love President Trump. They love the message that I'm carrying forward. To me, it's a perfect fit. It's a perfect match, and it's resonating extremely well all across the state of Iowa.
If people want to learn more about your campaign, how can they do that?
AdamSteen.com.
STEEN. STEEN is how it is spelled. AdamSteen.com. Adam, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So Todd and Aaron, we got a few minutes here. You guys are potential constituents and voters in this race. Your thoughts on what you guys just heard?
Well, we talk about real men all the time, who they are, how often they're lacking. Humbled by the calling of God and excited by that humility and what it means for them in their lives. And then honored about the duties of citizenship, not bored by them, not put off by them. Steve, you and I have been talking about him a lot, but this is the first time I had a chance to meet him in person. I sense both of these things from Adam. And when he talks about complimenting President Trump, I think of President Trump, a man who has no time for excuses and is saying, this land and this people and this heritage we have is far too precious for all the old excuses. Yes, we are going to use the National Guard. We are going to go into Memphis and San Francisco and the places that hate us, because while that self-loathing may work for you, we love this place called America, and we are going to defend it. Now, thank God, here in Iowa, it's one of the few places we don't have to send the National Guard in any place. But this man right here is going to make sure that that never happens on his watch. And I'm honored to give him my vote. And it's something I'm talking to my family and a certain girl who's about to graduate from college and has fought for this state before and is going to come home to do it again. It'd be my honor if she could do it with him.
Indeed, and he's got my support as well. I watched the opening announcements at his home church, at Adam's home church, and was ready to run through a brick wall after that. And notably, you mentioned this in passing, but Adam has young children at home. When you talk about taking up the mantle, oh, should I do this? Oh, should I run for this? Oh, should I run for that? If there's any guy who has an excuse to say, no, let's just wait till the kids grow up, it'd be a guy with young kids. But Adam saw the opportunity, the necessary opportunity in front of him, and he decided, you know what? Here I am, Lord, send me. And that was the message that I got. And that's where I decided, you know what? I'm going to throw my support behind this guy. So if you're in Iowa, even if you're not in Iowa, this is a national show, go to adamsteen.com and learn more about this individual. If he's successful in the primary, I promise you will hear more about him in the future. I promise you that. So, Adam, thank you for all the work you've already put in, and you've got our support, and we've got your back.
One last thing, just to piggyback off of what you just said, Aaron. We learned in between Trump's terms how vital it was to have even barely a handful of governors. Iowa, Florida, sometimes Texas, sometimes Georgia. They literally were the face of the resistance to push back on the auto pen presidency and what was going on in D.C. at the time. These are national races now if you elect the right people. They're also national races if you elect the wrong people. And if you need to understand what Rob Sand winning in Iowa will do to the Democratic Party nationwide. And it can't be permitted to happen. It just can't. And the reality is, if Randy Feenstra will not even face his own base, how in the world is he going to persuade people who don't yet think of themselves as Republicans or voting for him to do so if he won't even make the case to the people that will? We have to win. All right. Adam's a great candidate for all the reasons I said, but the number one thing that whoever we nominate has to be able to do in this race is win. And Adam can do that. AdamSteen.com is where you can go, STEEN. Back with more in a moment. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, final segment on a Tuesday, Election Day, in a few places, well, really all over the place, but a few places in particular with strong off-year election cycles, New Jersey, Virginia, and New York City we'll talk about here in a moment after I tell you about our friends over at Cove Pure. So we're into month 2 now of the Erzen family experiment with Cove Pure. It's the water filtration system you can put right there on your counter. No plumbing, no drilling. Easy enough to install. Todd can do it. Just sits right there on your countertop. And it filters out all those bacterias and leftover pharmaceuticals you don't want in your city drinking water. And whatever temperature you want, hot, cold, or warm, it's all there at the tap of a button. So since the Erzen family has, still growing children at home and they're very active and very athletic, I thought, let's put this in your house and have it, see what it does. And how's it been now? It's month 2. Great. How's it going?
I've been telling you about the daughters filling the water bottles there. You can see that's easy to do. I've been telling you about coffee on my end of things and how we make it at home, and this makes it easy. But also, once it's getting warm at night, I start drinking a lot of green tea.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to put a kettle on. I just go over here and do this. And also, if you can see by the picture, that's a water pitcher right there in the upper left-hand corner of it. If it's got a handle, it's always full. It detaches. So just at dinner, you can just take the pitcher over there and you can fill glasses. I mean, it's really easy. And I can't stress that enough. A lot of these things, tons of bells and whistles. It kind of looks on there like there's all kinds of things going on. It isn't. It's so self-explanatory. After using it for 2 minutes, it's like you've used it forever.
There you go. So we're going into the 60-day experimental plan with the Erzin family, and they're giving it rave reviews. So make sure you go to Cove Pure, Cove, C-O-V-E, V as in victory, covepure.com/Steve right now. For a limited time, you'll get $200 off of your Cove Pure. Get yours today. covepure.com/Steve, which also comes with the Erzin family seal of approval. And for a limited time, you'll get $200 off when you do. covepure.com/Steve for $200 off at covepure.com/Steve. All right. To quote the great movie of our childhood, Weird Science, where we're going next is a mind scrambler. All right.
Good pull.
I mean, it is, you want to make your brain hurt and your soul ache. I got an ethical quandary for you. All right. The kind of thing that the early church was like, you know what? There were some benefits to persecution. We didn't have to face these kinds of choices. Everything was very cut and dried. All right. You guys, I don't know if we're doing fake news or not. I don't know if we're doing idolatry or not. We might just be doing or not. New segment on the show or not. Okay. Let's say you are a Christian in New York City. I'm not sure there's a wrong or right answer to this. That's what I'm fascinated by. And it seems very likely that one of two men is going to be your next mayor. You have the Islamist, Zohran Mamdani, who is openly running on whatever is left of your way of life. I will not only end it, I will punish it. He's openly running on this. I mean, Mamdani is like if Nero was a Bedouin and was limited in what he could actually say because he had to run for office and not just, inherit the role of Caesar. So he had to placate and run for office. The political system was like limiting on what he could actually just say out loud. That's kind of what Mamdani is. Just an absolute end of your way of life. A Thanos snap of a candidate. Or you have Andrew Cuomo, who may have murdered your grandma and is okay with murdering every single baby conceived in the state of New York, even if they're born alive. Because that was one of the very first pieces of legislation he signed into law when he became governor a decade or so ago. And in many cases, it's people like Andrew Cuomo, Democrats like him, that set the stage for Mamdani. I mean, if we're going to be godless, eventually you're ready for the new God, right? I don't know what I would do. I would like to think I would not vote at all. But I can understand too if I've got Jewish friends and family I care about. Maybe you're like, you know what? I lived in New York State when Cuomo was governor. I hated his guts. I couldn't stand it. But I was still able to somewhat live here as an American citizen peaceably. And I have no idea how far this guy and will go with his ideology. If he's going this far as a candidate, if he's saying this stuff as a candidate, what in the world would he be willing to do if he has the power now? Doesn't have to face the voters every single day in a campaign, right? I believe me, I've had a few of these conversations privately with people, and opinions on this one are all over the place. So Todd, I give this one now, brother. I drop this one in your lap. The turd is yours. What would you do if you were in New York City today and you could vote?
Well, you give it to me and I give it over to the Old Testament. How do the prophets feel about splitting the baby in half? How do the prophets feel about constantly thinking you're smarter than God's plan and trying to do half measures with evil? I just think we've got to the point where in the past, even when we made the wrong decision, there is some road to hell paved with good intentions, but not on this. I don't think we can hitch our wagon to either one of these men in anything. It's not even a matter of good faith. It's just simply a matter of we must accept our punishment. We must not try to anoint it in any way, shape, or form.
So you view this as a divine act of judgment, right?
Yes.
Yeah, what I hear you saying. And there is no Kobayashi Maru to reprogram, because I love me reprogramming. And I love the people who try to reprogram the Kobayashi Maru. Enjoyed our dinner, Connor. Had a lot of fun. I love it. I hate I don't believe in the no-win scenario. One of my all-time favorite movie scenes is when they're sitting in the Genesis cave and Kirk grabs the communicator, takes the bite out of the apple, and he's been lying through the intercom to Spock because he knew Khan was listening in the entire time. And that look on Savik's face when she realizes the entire thing was a scam and a complete, total cheat code to get around the no-win scenario, right? I love that. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. You're saying there's no strategy here. This is all meta. And do not be on the wrong side of the divine justice of God is kind of what I hear you saying.
Yeah, or you too will deserve to be fired like Connor Stallions. He
resigned.
He's not going to let that go.
He resigned, just as a clarification. He resigned. All right.
He's setting me up. I got it. Swing.
I don't have a problem with you swinging. He resigned, just to clarify. But go ahead, yes.
Yeah, there's... We cheating is not going to get our way out of this. There's no end around. There just simply isn't. There is acknowledging the fact, and this is something to use the sports analogy, but sports pros don't like this. But sometimes you just deserve to lose. Sometimes it's good for you to lose. Sometimes you need to lose. This is, and it's deeply saddened. And I don't say this in
That's coming from a daddy that raised a championship athlete for a daughter. So this is not, you're not just sloganeering out there. You live this. Yeah.
And this is not also if you've seen the clip, have you seen the George Will clip about this?
Yes. But the problem is George Will's been wrong on so many other things that I've just refused to cite him as a source anymore. But yeah.
Well, I don't say this. George Will said this in kind of like this blasé, let them eat cake kind. I know it pains me to say that. This is New York. Hey, Steve, who doesn't like to travel, all right, even though he travels all the time, and he is a homebody. Like, he went to New York, and there's something purely American about that. He's told, I've never been to New York.
I love
Listen to
New York. Loved it. Favorite city in the country. Loved it.
And it is about to be anointed as a living hell and governed that way. But I've read my Bible. So has Steve and Aaron. This looks like justice to me. It is absolutely what it looks like the people of New York deserve, and what of all of us apparently need to see with our own eyes. And I believe this, just like the Penn State thing. I've told you before, Penn State football, the penalty, shut that place down and have a live camera. Everybody seeing an empty stadium on Saturday to know there's consequences. Well, I think we're going to get consequences, and they are deserved. And can anybody argue with that?
All right, so before we go to Aaron, as you completely twist every appendage in your body and contort it, trying to figure out how you would vote in this New York City mayoral election, you're going to need Chirp to undo the damage, all right? I don't think Chirp can fix your brain, but it can help your back, your neck. And hey, there's a lot of relief products out there. They don't live up to the hype. They don't give you what they promised. I tried out Chirp and the Contour myself before I recommended to you. Aaron tried out the Halo as well. He gives it a rave review as well. So Chirp's mission is simple: bring relief to as many people as possible so you can feel better, restore your energy, make self-care simple. They've got a whole category of products called Relief, and they're constantly coming up with more to innovate with professional-grade therapies that you can use at home. They're all doctor-trusted, FDA-cleared devices. They work just like the clinic treatments, but without all the expensive appointments. And the Chirp Halo, the Chirp Contour, just a couple of their devices that will improve your quality of life. You can visit gochirp.com/Steve, like a birdie chirp, CHIRP, GoChirp.com/Steve and use the promo code Steve at checkout for 10% off site-wide if you do. With the promo code Steve, you'll get 10% off site-wide at GoChirp.com/Steve. All right, so Aaron, you heard Todd. He went full, bring out your dead in the stand. He's waving the incense. He's got the placard. He's going through Times Square, and he is saying, judgment is nigh. All right, hunker down, okay? What would you do if you could vote in New York City today?
Do they have catacombs in New York City? Because I think that's probably I'm only slightly tongue-in-cheek here. I mean, in an election between Nero and Diocletian,
Ooh,
Diocletian.
Dude, now my heart hurts again.
One of them hates my guts. On the other hand, the other one hates my guts.
Oh, gosh.
On one hand, one killed a bunch of old people, but he might make the trains run on time. On the other hand, the other one might kill me. A bunch of I don't know. He might. I don't know.
A lot of his friends certainly would.
A lot of his friends are known for such things, and so this. I'm debating whether or not to give away my big prediction for the new year that whatever that category is we do for the year-end Deace group. But this has everything to do with that. I'm not going to give it away, but I will just say this. I'll kind of hint. I do believe with the election of Mamdani, slightly less so with the election of Cuomo, New York City is functionally on the verge of not really having a government. Not really having a government. On the one hand, with Mamdani, you have to believe that he is serious about all of his policies. On the other hand, he's never ran a darn thing. So does he actually understand the machinery of government? Now, the machinery of government certainly seems to understand him in New York City, and that's why he is being foisted there, and successfully so. But does he actually understand how to make things work, how to get things done, the machinery? Or is the fact that he doesn't know these things, is that the point of his election? So, as a Christian, if I were a Christian in New York right now, I just don't think either one of these men. There's a slight chance that Andrew Cuomo might make the trains run on time. But on the other hand, like I said, he knew how to make the trains run on time as governor of New York to the tune of killing grandma and grandpa in the nursing home. There is no good here. There just isn't. There just isn't a good option. So my advice to Christians in New York City is, as much as possible, and this again goes along with what I just hinted at will be my big prediction for the new year, live your life as above reproach as is possible. That would be my advice. If you can't leave for whatever reason, live as honoring to God as humanly possible. That's my advice.
Do we have any condemnation for people who, quote unquote, waste their vote on Curtis Sliwa?
No. I don't know much about the man, but
it's interesting that Giuliani has endorsed Sliwa and Trump endorsed Cuomo, actually. Do we have any condemnation of people who say, I've been living in New York and through this for decades. I know I can live, whatever Cuomo is, I know I can live through him.
No.
So I'm going to vote for him because I can't trust the unknown of Mamdani, given what he's already saying out loud is scary enough. Do you condemn people who make that choice?
No.
As long as they allow me to question.
Just keep your expectations low, and you
really
won't
low.
be disappointed.
Really low. Like you're going to breathe a little bit longer, maybe. I guess that's a valuable expectation of people.
But
obviously,
that person also needs to look back. Like you've been anointing human garbage for a very, very long time, and now I'm not going to take lessons in raw pragmatism from people who, would have been preaching to me the last couple decades that the Cuomos of the world are far better than any person with an R after their name. See, that's the part. I just have a feeling that, they've never wanted to entertain anything resembling pragmatism in the past. So do I get that now? Some desperate pragmatism, but it is desperate by any measure.
Hard to believe. Not even a generation after 9/11. Here we are.
You see,
when a culture lets go of the rope, it goes fast.
I already
fast.
Posted that next year is the 25th anniversary of 9/11. Can you imagine it being
Mamdani
started off
presiding over
the Muslim call to prayer? Buckle up.
Now you made my heart hurt again. And here's the thing. If he does win tonight, the Democrats have fully embraced him as a party. He is the face of the Democratic Party moving forward. And Republicans are going to make darn sure of it. That's what they want him to be the face too. And what this signifies is we've reached a new step of our devolution in what is our political normal, right? You know what I'm saying? That he's not just the stuff of, dark discus comment sections at Mother Jones. This is now the Overton window of our body politic now.
Yeah.
That'll do it for today's program. We're back at it again tomorrow, noon to 2 Eastern, right after Glenn Beck, right here on Blaze TV. Until then, go hard. Romans 8:28.